One of the great segments that we've had all year, one of the great series we've had all year in this particular segment, the Everwonder portion of our program, which Brad Walsh, our resident historian at the TCA, feeds us information every week. And one of the great series that he's put together this year is great programs in particular years that have three great athletes that are honored in that given season by the TCA. It's actually happened very few times in the history, the long history of the Touchdown Club of Atlanta, remembering that the Touchdown Club was founded in 1938. And from what Brad tells us, in this series, there have been very few times where a particular team in a fall has had three young men honored by the Touchdown Club of Atlanta, three separate young men. For this week's segment, we go all the way back to 1995, a team I know very well. In fact, I would venture to say there are very few media members in this town, in this state, that have covered Parkview as much as I have. On a personal note, my broadcasting career was burgeoning at the same time that the Parkview dynasty was born. In fact, before I go any further into Brad's report, I'm going to give you some numbers that'll help to put Brad's report in perspective, I think, because part of what makes this team so special, the 1995 Parkview Panthers team, so special, is that not just were three of those young men honored that year, but it was the beginning of one of the great dynasty runs in this state's history. From 1995 through 2005, again, just some numbers that I put together in my years in covering Parkview high school football. From 95 through 05, 11 years. Parkview compiled a record of 136 and 19. 136 and 19. Don't bother doing the math. It's a little over 12 wins per year. And in that 11-year span, 6 state championship game appearances. 6 state championship game appearances where they would go 4-2, by the way, 4-2. And in one stretch from the early 90s, mid-90s, through the early to mid-2000s, 14 consecutive state quarterfinal appearances. That one I just happen to remember off the top of my head. Don't have the years memorized, but I know it was 14 consecutive years, roughly 90, I guess 93 or 94, all the way through, of course, the early to mid-2000s. That 1995 Parkview Panther team featured John Myers, who, of course, many of you know. He was the star quarterback and defensive back for that team. Many of you also will remember Brett Milliken. Milliken, a star running back for that Parkview team. Some of you, a few of you anyway, will remember Ansley Battles. Remember Ansley Battles? Forgot all about that kid until Brad sent me the article this week, and when I read his name, I said, oh my gosh, Ansley Battles. Completely forgot about that guy. Battles was a running back and defensive back for that Parkview team. A Parkview team that, as I mentioned, made its first appearance in the state championship game. Averaged 34 points per ball game offensively while giving up just 3 points per game defensively. Myers, of course, would go on to Georgia Tech, where he was recruited as a quarterback and would finish his career as a wide receiver. Today, he's in sales for Peachtree Packing in Atlanta. As for Milliken, of course, he finished his running back career at Parkview. Still today, he is number 5 all-time in rushing yards in Georgia high school football history. And he is an associate pastor and deacon at Christ Community Church in Austin, Texas. As for Battles, he went on to continue his football career as a Vanderbilt Commodore and spent 6 years in the National Football League. Today, he's a teacher in Gwinnett County. That Parkview team, the first, as I mentioned, of 6 to reach the state championship game, where in 1995 they lost to none other than Quincy Carter and the Southwest DeKalb Panthers. Coming up next, in the What's Next portion of our program, it is, after all, awards season.